Mr. Jim Bradbury, if you would like to come forward and say some words, apparently.
Oh, well, I thought you...
No, I haven't forgotten about you. I just had you in a special place.
Hoping you'd bypassed it. Well, so instead of doing a skit, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what this week meant to me. And when I was a kid, you know, I kind of always watched cowboy shows, right? My favorite show was The Rifleman. John Wayne was my hero. I loved cowboy movies. And I just grew up watching them, thinking cowboy was about shooting a 6-gun and riding and all that sort of stuff. And so I was a kid, we played cowboys and Indians. I insisted on being a cowboy, right? I always wanted to do that. And as I got older, there was actually one time when I was thin and young and good looking like Josh. And I decided, okay, I'm going to kind of dress like a cowboy. So I went out and bought some boots and this hat, you know, and got dressed up and went out to a bar one time, and actually a woman actually came over and said, "Are you a real cowboy?" And I'm like, "I'm Oriental." You know? Are you kidding me? And she said, "Well, you really look like a cowboy." You know, I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess it worked. I got the belt, the boots, the hat. You know, I had a sports jacket on. You know, turtleneck." I was like, "Oh, I look like a cowboy. That's cool." But I told her, "No, I'm not a cowboy." Because I wasn't in my mind. Like, cowboys ride horses. I was afraid if I said, yes, I'm a cowboy, she'd be like, "Oh, isn't it really cool when the horse does this?" I'd be like, maybe. I'm not sure. Right? So I said, no, I'm not a cowboy, but I just dress like one. And so I kind of went on, you know, on and on, thinking about what is a cowboy. And still thought cowboys rope, they ride, they do this stuff. So I'll never be a cowboy, because I'm just not. I mean, my father was... You know, we lived in rural, suburban America. You know, there's no way I was going to be a cowboy. And so this trip came along, you know, and I said, okay, well, we'll go this horseback riding trip. And that's all it was, a horseback riding trip. Then next thing I noticed, you know, it's like, oh, I need a pair of chaps, and I need to get some cowboy gloves, and we better go do some horseback riding lessons to get ourselves. And I already had the hat, so I was finally going to be able to wear the hat. Yeah! For real, right? And I got the belt buckle on, I'm all set, right? And I went out and I bought some shirts and stuff and everything. And anyway, and I had custom chaps made, right? So I'm getting into it, I'm doing the cowboy thing, but I'm still feeling like I'm just, you know, come on, it's a dress-up thing. And so we come here and we're dressed up, and first thing that Stuart says, "Oh, Melissa and Jim, best dressed cowboy and cowgirl," right? And I'm still looking at it thinking like, but it's just phony, right? It's not real. And then to make matters worse, we go out with Josh, right, who is a cowboy, right? And he's probably the kind of, like, if you could be a cowboy, you'd be like him, right? And all the women in the back are going, "Oh, Josh, my saddle is, you know, not right?" And John, like, sounds, "Oh, I think we need to get a less good-looking cowboy because maybe we'd move along faster here, right?" So I'm like, yeah, you know, that's, you know, and he's talking about, yeah, and, you know, he's a teacher, but he does this, and he's, you know, riding easy and everything, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not a cowboy, not, and I'll never be a cowboy. And then we go out on the trail, and we're out there, and it's as you know, some of the most breathtaking scenery that a human being can ever imagine, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and I said this to Josh a number of times, right? I was having these epiphanies out there. All I kept thinking about was, what was this country like 300 years ago, you know, when the only people up there were on horses, or the only people up there, you know, were exploring and seeing it for the first time and trying to find ways over those places we were riding. What was it like for them? Because it had as much as beautiful as we think it is, it had to be even more so, because there were more animals, it was more pristine, and they didn't even know where they were going. So I'm looking at them going, oh my God, this is just beautiful. I'm talking to Josh, he's listening, he's talking about he loves this ride and this ride. And all of a sudden, I realized that there's a lot more things to being a cowboy. It's not about riding and roping. That's part of it. It's a skill, right? But it's about a love of this land, this breathtaking beauty, a love of horsebacking into it, okay, as a way to access it and the challenge that it goes with it. It's the camaraderie that we all felt, no matter where we came from, whether it's the States or Canada or different parts of Canada or different walks of life. And the fact that we kind of got together here, and my worst fear was realized in going to the bathroom in an outhouse, right? I was telling people, no, you can't pay this kind of money and be told you're going to be going to the bathroom in an outhouse or showering out of something funky, right? And they were realized, right? But also what was realized during the week was we all share this sort of common love of this stuff, right? And whether you want to rope, which I do, and I'm not very good at it, or whether you want to not wear a cowboy hat, or it doesn't matter. There's an essence, I think, somewhere deep inside of the term cowboy, or cowgirl, or cowwoman, or whatever, that's more than just roping and riding. It's something special. It's, you know, I look at, like, if you ever watched the movie Monty Walsh, right? It's about the days of the cowboys sort of ending in the United States. And there was a camaraderie of the cowboys. They loved each other, they loved what they were doing, and they believed in what they were doing as the only way of life that mattered. I remember in the movie he said, I ain't doing anything I can't do from a saddle. Didn't want a job unless he could do it from the saddle. Well, there's sort of that core this week. And I felt it with everybody. And I felt something from the people hundreds of years ago out there. And it was pretty special. And so to some degree, I'm not saying I'm a cowboy, but some degree I felt like I got closer to it this week and actually became more of it than I ever thought I could attain. And that was really special for me.